Okay, everybody. Hey, thanks for being on today's interview. I'm really excited about bringing Mary on. Mary Gardner is a personal friend. She's a coach to speaker. She's helped me. She's actually helped astronauts. I'm going to let her share a little bit of her concepts and what she's doing, because I think as a real estate agent, you're going to need to know how to exactly present yourself with more charisma. She's been on TV. She's coached astronauts. So if she's done that, I know she could fix us. So Mary, great having you on. And so, you know, I've never asked you this question. How did you ever get into the business of charisma? How did that happen?
Oh, that's a great question. Well, hey, everybody. Great to see you guys. Yeah, I'm Mary. And how I started was in 7th grade. There was a girl by the name of Tracy Smith who walked in my drama class. And it was in the middle of class, and she poked her head in the door, and she said, "Hi, Mrs. Long," and everybody turned around and looked at her, and Mrs. Long said, "Oh, hey, Tracy, how are you?" And that was it. She walked out the door. But afterwards, Mrs. Long said, "You know, there's some people that can walk in a room and everybody turns their eyes, and Tracy Smith is one of those kind of people." And I said at that point, I want to be those kind of people, you know, one of those kind of people. So that was it. I started studying big popularity and how do you get to know people. So by college, I think I started kind of nailing it a little bit, and then started my career doing sales and never stopped. I'm just so fascinated by it. And I love helping people get their inner light to shine. So it's my purpose in the world right now.
Yeah. And don't you think now more than ever, you know, when they say that the next generation coming up will never make as much money as their parents, which is kind of interesting. Someone needs to teach them how to get out there. So, you know, why is charisma so important to your job? I mean, you know, I see that in any job, really. Why is that such a big deal?
Absolutely. We've got to be prepared. It's a competency that we, you know, want to achieve. And it's really starts with the whole likability and then social skills. And then it goes all the way up to powerful inspirational leadership. And every step along the way, we can let our inner light shine, which really charisma is one of those intangible leadership skills that allows people to be drawn to you. And so what it is you're actually being able to influence people just by your way of being. So it's an inner confidence. It's letting your light shine. It's having a good ability to make other people feel good and to be able to coach them, to be able to inspire them. So there's several things that kind of create it. But it becomes that intangible quality that we all know when we see it. It's that whole it factor thing. And
yeah, how do you learn how to do this? Because, you know, you got these shy people that are out there, and believe me, that are in sales, which I don't understand, but they're really afraid. How do you start to work your way up to having better charisma in little steps if I'm a shy person?
So many people now are so introverted because we're connecting with our phone and our computer instead of each other. So when we talk about being shy, I kind of take that off the table. Shy is different from introverted. Shy,
oh, okay.
Yeah, I mean, and I do coach a lot of introverts. And introvert is not the same. So let me just kind of give a quick description. So a person who's shy is kind of intimidated by other people, and they're looking at themselves and thinking, how am I going to appear? What am I going to say? So if you kind of break it down a little bit, being shy is not opening yourself up and trying to help other people. It's worrying about yourself.
Right.
So you start to think about, if you feel like you're shy, the little tweak, the little transition is, let's start to look at what I can do to make them feel comfortable. So that's the very first thing with the whole shyness. We kind of unravel that a little bit. And then introvert is really interesting. It's a person that enjoys and needs more quiet in order to process. So the introverts that need to go out and do business development, they still can have really nice, amazing charisma. And so that's really about an inner confidence. So an introvert is somebody then that will want to spend ample time developing strategies that will, I guess, basically take care of their energy. So you have to ramp up a little bit. You have to prepare. You have to have a strategy when you go out doing business development and you go sales. But introvert does not have anything to do with not being a good salesperson. You just have to plan differently.
So I remember one time walking into an appointment where I was like beaming. I don't know if I ever duplicated that again, but I remember going in there and people are like, oh my God, I got the listing. So how do you know you have it? How do you know that this is something I could duplicate and bring on every time? And how do you know that? How do you just feel that, that I've achieved that level?
That's so amazing. And isn't that great? Well, I asked everybody at some point, do you remember a time when you just really felt confident? You felt fantastic. You felt really good. Sometimes it takes people back to when they were playing soccer or they were in gym class or they were in sewing class or something. So it's really important that you have confidence in yourself with something. And then you start to build on that. That is, and then there's steps like you going and having gratitude. Then you teaching other people. You developing that inner joy and that self-expression. That's when we start to light up. And so you can bring that same personality to business development, even if you don't feel a sense of security when you're like, so if you're not so good at your job yet, but you can still bring that personality that is enthusiastic about other people. So I take people to a place they're like, you've already got it in you. Let's just tap back into what it felt like.
It's interesting to see, but you could definitely tell when someone doesn't have it. You could definitely tell when that person is trying to develop their business or in sales or even speaking. And you've seen it because you've coached many, many speakers and see when they don't have it. So, okay, so now I'm a person who really wants to get better at it. What are some of the things I've got to do in this process? Like, I don't know, what kind of exercises do you have me doing to get better at having it?
Well, when I do my charisma course, because I have a course called the Charisma Course, we start off by very, very basic things, and you cannot believe how these things stump people. And it starts with the basic first impression. Are you making a good and strong first impression? That's everything from your hygiene to your hair to your teeth, everything. You want to go out feeling good. If we get dressed and we're not feeling good, we're not going to be able to feel like we want to attract other people. So that's first and foremost. So your health, that's really important, is getting into an exercise program, getting to a place of where you're starting to feel, when you're starting to sweat and get, like I'm a swimmer, so getting in the pool, it makes you feel, so you're grabbing onto life. So your first impression when I'm working with somebody, let's work on it. If you need to go shopping, I've taken people shopping before, go get somebody to help you. So start upgrading your outward sense of appearance. And then we start to work on social skills. And how do we do that? I've got formulas that I use. One simple one is called FORM, F-O-R-M. It's a basic one. It's about asking questions and having curiosity about the other person. So the formula is family, occupation, recreation, message. And message, that they're all self-explanatory, except message is really about their purpose. So you start to ask questions of other people, and we practice this in class to know how to start generating conversation and getting that other person to expose themselves a little bit and share a little bit about themselves. And then if you can find and uncover somebody's passion where you see their face light up, dive in, man. That's the time and the place to start getting them feeling good. And when you're in a place of doing conversation, you're really looking for a mutual connection, something that both of you can enjoy. So that's why in the beginning you're kind of hunting around and looking for that commonality and starting to create just a sense of warmth, because social skills are so important. A lot of people, and especially introverts, don't really find small talk necessary. But what I share is that it really is a necessary component of allowing yourself to feel, do I like this person and do they like me? Do we have good energy together? So that's how we start to uncover somebody's charisma, somebody's confidence. Then I have all sorts of fun exercises that will help people like explode into the next phase of charisma and confidence.
It's so interesting because I know you and I know that you're like this. This is you. And so, I'm actually coaching some people, or I'm watching them on Zoom or something, and this is them excited. And I'm going, don't they know that they need to be, just fake it with me. So what are some of the mistakes people can get into or bad habits that could affect their business? In this whole world of having charisma.
Yeah, I mean, I think worry is probably the biggest one. And I think so many of us suffer from that and fear of other people. And so we want to start in low risk situations that allow us and keep pushing us to go out there. And, you know, a lot of the people are just afraid to pick up the phone. They're afraid to talk to people. So it really is booting that fear out and say, okay, what's next? Let's get rid of that fear and let's get up there. I did a public speaking course the other day, and so that's again where I take people to a place of where they're exposing themselves, they're becoming vulnerable in front of an audience, and oh my gosh, you cannot believe it. I saw, and bless their hearts, I mean, they're attractive, they're intelligent, they're fun people, but when you get them in front of people, in front of an audience, they freeze up. And so you've got to have strategies for that also. So I think really working with a coach to polish those communication skills is the best thing that anyone could do.
You know, it's so, I remember years ago, and I think I might have told you the story. So I'm in my 20s and I'm going to audition for this commercial. And listen, I can't act to save my life. I can't even be a tree if I, can't even do that. So I remember being so nervous and just freaking out before I did it. Because you know how when you audition, you're auditioning in front of everybody else who's auditioning. So you're really like freaked out. So yeah. I'm seeing that same issue happens with people in presentations. When they're giving presentations, they're freezing up. Is there let's say before I go into a presentation, before I have to present what I do, is there something that I need to be thinking of that will get me into that state, that right state of having high charisma or just having an impact on someone? Anything you can suggest to help us in that?
It really depends on where you are. If you're in someone's office, obviously looking at what's obvious. And if you're in a networking event, looking at what's obvious and start to warm people up and start to, feel each other's energy just by exchanging a few niceties. But then ultimately, before a speaker goes up, you want to be so prepared. It takes 10 hours to prepare for a 1-hour presentation. So really having your message down, knowing what those points are, practicing your stories so you can nail that. Those first 2 minutes that you start a speech, man, you've got to have that memorized. So really, you've got to have a strategy. There are exercises to get over fear. I go through those in my courses. One of them is deep breathing. It basically, you could do the breathe in for 4 seconds, hold for 4 seconds, relax, release for 4 seconds, and again, hold for 4 seconds. And that's been proven scientifically to help you with your stress. But I give those to people so they don't come in with that complete panic. And I think the biggest thing they need to do is prepare. So doing it in front of their mirror, doing it in front of videos, making sure they look good, making sure they sound good. And, exercises, even like reading a book on video to see if our tonation and our vocal variety is there. Because as you know, people, as you mentioned before, people can come across and be very dull if they don't because if they don't have natural energy, you mentioned it before, you're not an actor, but we do have to learn some acting skills in the beginning until it becomes more of an easy process. Because we can change our personality by learning a few tweaks, and it's not that hard.
I was reading a book about that, and we talk a little bit about that transformation that you just have to have. If I'm a shy person, if I expect to make some sales, I just can't carry that shyness throughout my career, my presentations, or else I'm in trouble. What's that?
I said, boot it out the window.
Yeah, just see you later, fear guy. I'm gone. So for you, in your career, and I never asked you this either. You're coaching the astronauts, the Kellys, or one of the Kelly. What goes on? What is someone like that you think is already out there needs that kind of help? I'm just going, this guy's probably been asked all kinds of questions. He's an astronaut, and here you are coaching him on his charisma. What goes on in that?
So it depends on what I'm coaching for. So I've worked with a lot of NFL players. I've worked with a lot of Olympians. I've worked with a couple of astronauts, only a few, and many, many CEOs. I've worked with tons of realtors, with lawyers, anybody that's doing any presentation and business development. And if you're at the level of where you're a celebrity, and of course, I'm a former celebrity agent. I worked at one of the country's largest celebrity speaker bureaus. Many people get launched into being a celebrity almost instantaneously overnight. They write a book, a news story happens, So they retire from the White House, whatever it is,
Right.
and all of a sudden now they're hot. And so when that happens, there are several, the media comes fast and, furious, and speaking bureaus come to you and start asking for you to come out and do speaking. You start getting paid for stuff. If you're not prepared, you're going to go through the exact same thing that other people do, which is fear and no preparation, winging it, which doesn't work well for the long term. So working with a coach to help them construct a signature keynote speech, to help them be alive. And when I work with alive, meaning lively, and when I work with introverts on stage, and of course I would say Mark Kelly or Scott Kelly would be introverted, I start to see things like humor, that their natural personality that they've been maybe squashing down for a long time. Like with Mark Kelly, I loved working with him. The first time we got together, he said, all right, let's get down to business. I want to get down to this coaching. I'm like, wait a minute here. I'm a coach. Let's get to know each other. And so it's a process of really getting to know my clients, whether they're an editor, it doesn't matter. It's in those social moments that I'm talking to them that I get these amazing nuggets of stories and storytelling, or find out how they feel about their children. And those are the things that I create a story around and bring them to the forefront. So a speaker will go from, okay, he was fine, to, oh my God, he was amazing. Yeah. And that's because when you can get a person to tap into other people's hearts, that's when you have a hit. So that's what I like to do.
Yeah. How they talked about, I remember reading an article on that Harvard put out, that the lack of empathy, that people sometimes have this lack of empathy in their process of, now this is in sales, showing that. And you were just reminded me of you basically slowed him down. He went, let me get to work. And you're going, hey, let's get to know each other, which probably his guard came down, and he knew that you weren't, you're not the regular type of person who's just going to get right to work. You wanted to learn something, which is being, I guess, more empathetic to his situation. How do you get more empathy and show it to people? How do you get that to a point? Because they're saying in sales, people are lacking that.
Yeah, I agree. Isn't that wild? So part of that comes from being curious, and part of it comes from listening, and really taking time to not jump into, oh, what's next, but taking time to just experience somebody and ask them questions and to listen to their story. And you're absolutely right. You see so many people that will just listen, and they're like a bump on a log or a rock, and they don't have those extra, like, oh, tell me more, or those empathy, those empathy statements that are be like, oh my gosh, I can't believe you went through that, or wow, that's so unbelievable, or just giving them an endorsement. Right. So we practice those things. That's interesting that you say that I hadn't heard that study before, that people are lacking empathy, but it's so true. And it's just really slowing down, showing curiosity, and making people feel good about what they've gone through, or supporting them in if it was something hard.
And humor. Okay. So we have, once you make that connection with someone, you feel comfortable. I mean, there's some people that shouldn't be telling jokes because they're not that good. I mean, actually, I'm lousy at jokes. I'm more of a life joker type of person. I don't know how to say it. You know what I'm saying? I can't just, once upon a time. So I'm asking you that from empathy to demonstrating what you have, here's my services. How long does it take, do you think, before you get down to business? How long should it take? Or what signs am I looking for in the body language? Okay, it's time. We can start talking business now. Or, hey, I better not talk business now because this thing ain't happening. So how do I know that it's the right time to start talking business?
I think we've all done it right and we've all done it wrong. I think that there's not a simple formula for that. And in every culture, certainly they have different protocols. Yep. But in America, there is and this is where a lot of the people that I work with who are introverted or left brain, logical thinkers, have a more difficult time. They're fine getting right down to business, and they don't enjoy that little simple talk, banter back and forth. So it really, once you get that set up, there usually is a pause. People come to a pause and a place of recognizing we're here to do business. And so that's a place where I share with a lot of women. They lose out because women will come to meetings and they will be they'll be quiet. And so, and this is not normally with saleswomen that are realtors. Usually they're pretty good at that component of it, maybe too good. And that's the other thing, is that some of them can be overly chatty, and there needs to be a time where they get down to business and start looking at the clock. So I think everybody has to kind of gauge. There's a medium or a middle point where both men and women kind of come together, and it becomes social, warm-hearted, and also logical. So as long as you can kind of get to that place where you're both meeting in the middle, that takes a little practice. I definitely do think it takes practice.
And with the stresses of life, I've noticed, and back to having to be maybe this other person that you weren't when you left the house because your kids just dumped something on the carpet, or the dog peed somewhere, or something happened before you went into, it's almost like you still have to present at a high level, even with life that comes in around you. And I just, I'd like to talk a little bit about that, because I could see the stresses in some of the clients that I'm talking to that have bills to pay and have all this stuff going on, but you still have to act like, hey, things are going great.
Great. Everything's awesome. Yeah.
How do you do that? How can we get to that point where we don't let what just happened to us 20 minutes ago at the house affect our presentation? Because if you cancel presentations, you're losing money.
Absolutely. I think we're living in an abundant period of time now where there's such a great amount of information in podcasts. So I think that, we're very lucky that we can do that and reset our mindset instantaneously by getting in the car and turning on a podcast that can really reset your memory, or reset your personality, or your attitude, or your mindset. And I think it does come down to mindset. So what are the strategies that you're going to use to transition yourself from that home life, the frustrating, the bills, the reality of life, into a place of faith and hope and inspiration? And that takes going, I think, having a strategy. So mine is, there's different ways you can do it. You get a natural adrenaline flow by exercising. So I did yoga this morning, and man, after I do yoga, I'm like, woo, I feel so good. It's so great. After I get out of the pool, I'm the same way. But you know what? When I turn on music, oh my gosh, I'm just so happy. I'll turn on a podcast. I'm like, yeah, I got to do that. I got to do that. So it's really finding your own strategies. There's some days that I'm like, oh, I just am too overwhelmed, and too much in my head. So I go to my journal and I dump everything in my journal. So I think you have to know yourself, to thine own self be true. So find strategies that work for you.
Yeah, I think that's a key. I think you said really important things. One is a journal, and knowing yourself, because we still have to perform. I mean, you know how it is. You still have to do your thing, and we know each other. So there's things going on in our life, and we still got to go out there and deliver. I remember years ago, my mentor was on stage. And he's sitting there in front of 3,000 people, speaking. And I don't even know why they did this, but on the monitor in front of him, and he's an older gentleman, said, "Your mom just passed away." Can you believe that? No one knew. We knew after that, when all the coaches got together and talked to him, but didn't lose a beat. He just saw it on the monitor. I mean, that's extreme. But there are certain things that we just have to let go for that moment.
Yeah.
Don't you think?
Absolutely.
I mean, should we tell people, hey, guess what? My kid just cussed me out just a little while ago, and that's why I'm a little flustered right now. And I think you have to leave some stuff in the back and come in with this. And
it takes practice. It really does. I got a lot of that practice when I was doing live TV. And you would have to be on for 3 minutes, and no matter what was going on in your world. And I remember one time, everything that one of the anchor women pulled off, because I had all these different products on the table. I was a lifestyle reporter, and she pulled off one thing, and the entire thing came tumbling down. And within just about 30 seconds, I put everything back, and now all of a sudden I'm back on camera. Hello, everybody. So it gave me the sense of you're performing. And so if you consider and think about performers who know that the second they walk out on stage, they're amazing. And people would talk about Bob Hope that way, and George Burns, some of these old performers who would be like old and like, oh, and then the second they walk out on stage, they're up and at 'em. And Disney has an amazing story. I know that there's a book, Lessons from the Mouse. by Dennis Snow. He's a speaker and he lives in Orlando. And he talks about how Disney has behind the scenes and in front of the scenes. So it's behind the stage and in front of the stage. And behind the stage, there's Mickey Mouse and there's Pluto and Goofy, and they're all walking around. They're smoking cigarettes. Their heads are off. You know, they're characters and everything. But the second they walk out on stage, which is outside the door, the character door, and somebody's checking their whole outfit to make sure everything looks pristine, they walk out, and by that, it's a happy experience, and we're creating a magical experience for all of our customers. And so they have that when you're working at Disney, you go bring your attitude. All of us need to do that for ourselves. Is that the second we get inside the door at our place of work, or with our internal customers, which are the people we work with, or external customers, which are our potential clients or our clients, we need to know we are on stage.
Right, right. And you know, you brought up a great point. You know, when we are selling as real estate agents, usually one-on-one, maybe two-on-one, but a couple of them are doing larger presentations in front of a, you know, board of directors, or maybe they're doing a workshop. It's a little bit different. Can you give us some tips on doing a workshop and what we've got to be aware of if you're doing larger audiences? And we're not talking the kind of stuff that you do, but, you know, maybe a little workshop with 30, 40, 50 people. What's important about keeping that workshop interesting and keeping our sales interesting? What are some tips you can give us on that?
I love it. There's so many. I'll give a couple. First and foremost, you want to practice and make sure that your content is good. It has really fantastic stories. Mm-hmm. Because when people go away from you, they're going to remember a couple things. Number one, how did they feel in your presence? And number two, they're going to remember like 2 stories. That's it. And so the first one is a big one. How do they feel? So they're looking and feeling your energy and your attitude and your confidence. And are you prepared? Are you fun? And now there's studies that show that people want, more than anything, inspirational leaders. And that's an intangible thing. What does that mean? That means good coaching skills. That means good ability to cast a vision for the group and let the group collaborate. Mm-hmm. So it's doing some of the leadership skills and bringing that to the stage. And so again, it comes back to real preparation. And then at the moment where you're walking on stage, it's relaxing, having fun, and making sure that your clients that are in your group are having the best time that they possibly can, because you're prepared and now you're there for them.
Is there any, you know how you have to, like sometimes I walk into the room and kind of look at the layout just to make sure that I understand the dynamics of the room. Mm-hmm. Any tips on that? Because it's almost like going to someone's house and you're doing a listing presentation and the kids are running around going crazy. You have no control over that environment. It's almost best to do it at the office than to do it in their home, because you know their house is just a complete disaster with chaos going on. Is there anything like that we have to worry about in doing a little mini workshop or seminar that we're doing for potential buyers or sellers?
Yeah, I agree. I think, and most speakers do have an idea of what their location is going to be like. And if we're able to control that a little bit, of course, the better. But if somebody's distracted, the best thing you can do is be patient, because that's going to come across. If you come across as impatient, they're going to remember that. So being patient and being willing to work and be flexible with whatever situation that is thrown in front of you. But speakers, when they get to a room, one of the things that they do, and I make people do this in my workshop, walk around the whole room and actually touch the chairs and have a sense of, you know, an actual physical experience with the chair. So it's kind of like an energy exchange. So we do that. We do visualization. And so preparing yourself beforehand, what's the best case scenario and what is my intention for today? My intention is that we get along and we come to a deal and everybody's happy. It's a win-win situation. So things like that can really help before you get there. And then when you're there, be willing to laugh and have a good time while you're doing business.
All right, so this is good stuff. Now, second step, we bring someone in to speak for us. Mm-hmm. Watch this. I've seen this happen where you didn't check on the person. And what do we need to be aware of if we bring someone to be part of us? And what are some rules or some guidance that we need? Because a lot of times you just bring them in and they talk and you have no clue how they present themselves.
Yeah, I just worked with a client who did that. And so we prepared in advance. I'm her coach, and she's a leader of an organization locally in town. And she was seeing somebody, and she didn't realize that her master of ceremonies person was going to be really, really old. He was like 90. And let's say there are very youthful 90-year-olds, and there's old 20-year-olds. So this was not a young and youthful person inside her. And so she kind of had to be the energy, and we had prepared for that in advance. And I think another strategy, what's the worst case scenario that can happen, and how do we prepare for it? So, if you have a good relationship with a person, you'd never want them to go on and ramble on too far, is that you could do a strategy where you start jumping in and endorsing the client and the speaker, like, I like that, what he's saying right there. Did you guys hear that? That's really important. And, oh, Bill, and then you move on to maybe doing master of ceremonies, where you start taking over and facilitating, as opposed to letting them completely embellish and, do their own story.
Yeah, I had that happen to me. Hopefully he doesn't see this, but so I'm in another state doing a little something, and I'm only going to do 10 minutes, Bill. I just want to do 10 minutes. Mistake. Because 10 minutes went for 20, and you really have to control their time, and you got to let them know, because, I mean, once they're up there, it's really hard sometimes to pull them off.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, and so you can start to edge out, like, hey.
Yeah. The hook comes out.
Let's get the standing ovation. Woo!
Yeah, that's good. I love that. So, all right. So give us, as we wrap up here, first of all, this is all great information. I know it's going to be helpful for agents. What are some resources that you recommend that they can go to help them read more? Obviously, we'll get to your website. What's your website?
MaryGardner.com and InspirationalSpeakersAcademy.com.
Great. And is there any books that you suggest that would be a good first start for us, people that just want to kind of wrap themselves around having better charisma?
Well, I do offer an 8 CD set. It's called From Introvert to Influencer, How to Connect, Communicate, and Captivate. It is an 8 CD set, so there's 8 workshops, and we either do it on CDs or MP3 players. So they can email me or go to my website. My email is mary@marygardner.com. So happy to do that. There's a lot of information out there, and I do coach people in the charisma, and we have online, and we also have masterminds and things like that. So if they're interested, happy to do it. But there's the good old standards, the how to win friends and influence people, and then I love all those old, Napoleon Hill and just the old ones. I mean, it doesn't matter if it's old or new, it's still the same. It's about really learning to connect with other people and making other people shine. And in that, if you can do that, you'll shine as well.
That's what I tell my wife. It doesn't make a difference if I'm old or new. I'm still the same. So anyway, I'm just kidding. Either way. So Mary, hey, thank you so much. This is really helpful, and I look forward to talking to you again. You've been great friends with me and helping me in the past, and I think this could be something that's different for people to learn about, because charisma, without it, I don't know how people can do selling of any sort without some level of charisma in their business. It's got to be there. So thanks. I appreciate your time, and I look forward to coming back again and talking to us.
Awesome. Thank you, Bill. Take care.
Later.
Appreciate it.